I think I've met everyone. Anyone come in after I met your table? Well, my name is Rashad Fakhruddin, and I'm the president here at the Islamic Center of Nashville. We welcome you from the bottom of our hearts. It's really a pleasure to have each and every one of you. And I think at least 1 out of every 2 person knows Carrie Conley here. So if you know her, clap. About half of you here. So thank you again for coming. And special acknowledgement. We have Fatouche Restaurant. They give us a great discount. So they're the ones, if you ever want to try some great Mediterranean, Greek food, Arab food, go to Fatouche. It's on Charlotte Pike, close to MLK in that part of across, I think, Red Cross. So thanks to them and our volunteers, we have, I don't want to leave out any, but you see them in the back and in the front. So thank you very much. And there's going to be there's an iPad. So you can pass the iPad around if you haven't signed up. If you're already on our email list, there's no need to. But if you're not, just fill your name, email address, and if you want to put the organization, you're welcome to do so. If you don't want to, that's fine. That way we can at least, we may send out 1 email a month to invite you for other upcoming events, so you can check our sign. And now we know we can try Instagram too, thanks to Carrie. So I'm going to start off. This is just the Islam 101 presentation, explains Islam, covers our demographics, history, and covers some of the common misconceptions, and called Understanding Your Muslim Neighbors in Nashville. So we're going to start with the greetings of peace. This is how we greet each other. Assalamu alaikum. So can you say Assalamu alaikum? Okay, I can hear you. A little louder. Assalamu alaikum. Pretend you're excited Vanderbilt beat UT last night, except for those who are UT fans. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, that gives me a little bit of energy because I'm running on only a few hours of sleep last night. So that means may God's peace be with you. It's similar to the Jewish greetings of Shalom. Even in the Bible, Luke 24:36, it says, Jesus stood in their midst and saith unto them, peace be unto you. And in Aramaic, it sounds like Shalom Alaikum. And pray that this doesn't mess up. Okay. This is a place where we pray, so this is good. So today's presentation will cover beliefs and practices, Muslims around the world, Muslims in America, today's misunderstanding, jihad, tolerance, women, and Sharia. So a little bit about basic terminologies. Islam means peaceful, willing submission to the will of God. It's derived from the root word salam, which means peace. And so a Muslim is a person who willingly submits to God and finds peace. So I love to share this little story. Actually, since we have Carrie here, I'll have to share both stories because she had been doing a lot of work with Pencil Foundation, and that's actually how, where's Carrie? Okay, there you go. I thought you were there. So that's how we first met at the Bravo Luncheon in the Neighborhood Association. So right after 9/11, that's considered one of the most recent, most tragic events that occurred on U.S. soil in recent history. And so as Muslims, we're Americans, we're devastated just like any other Americans. But then all of a sudden some people, not everyone, started painting Muslims with the same paintbrush, thinking, hey, we're all responsible. We somehow have something to do with those 19 criminals that executed this crime. And Nashville was a lot better than other places around the country, but there were fatalities, there was physical abuse, and the whole 9 yards. And Hillsborough High School, their student council presented us with this banner called Celebrate Peace. And you can't imagine how comforting it is. And we go through cycles of this, even like just a few months ago. That's why we had that appreciation brunch. People were like, hey, we're worried about you, all these laws and stuff going into place. And it means a lot. And we've been, I guess, spoiled by being in Nashville, but this is sort of common. It's just symbolic of saying, hey, we know you have nothing to do with this crime and that we're your neighbors. And then again, there's a Bintra Montessori school. So same time, right after 9/11, their students gifted us with a check for $42 and some odd cents. And they said, we know you're going through all this and women are afraid to go out in public in the nighttime. So here, go out and get some groceries with this. And so I love to share those stories. And so 6 articles of faith. We believe in God. We refer to God as Allah. We believe in angels, revelations, that God sent revelations from the Torah to the Psalms to the Gospels, and we believe the Quran to be the final revelation. We believe in prophets that God created. Adam, you have Abraham, you have Moses, Jacob, you have Jesus. Jesus we believe in as a prophet in Islam, and we believe Muhammad to be the final prophet. And then we believe in the Day of Judgment. So we believe that we'll be held accountable for everything we do in this life, and that's why we'll be raised up again, and we'll be questioned about everything we did in this life. And the reward and punishment system comes in the form of a heaven and a hell. And then we believe in the divine decree that everything that happens by the will of God. And so like we encounter death, suffering, and it's always hard to cope with. But you get through it by thinking this is God's will and submit to God. Or even something as trivial as the Titans haven't made the playoffs in 8 years. How do we cope with that? It's a nightmare. I think we'll make it hopefully next year. But losing to Jacksonville, how do you accept that? You just say, besides it was hard waking up the next morning. I was depressed, and but then I had to go to the Vanderbilt game. Sam knows all the story there. They played 2 days later at the bowl game in Shreveport. We traveled there, and then they lost. So it was like, this is the time to apply divine decree. And so there are 5 pillars of Islam. These are the foundations by which we live our lives. And so we have the testimony, prayers, charity, fasting, and pilgrimage. We'll go over each of these. So the testimony of faith, I'll translate it as there's no God except Almighty God or Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. So there are 2 components of this faith system. The belief in one God and belief in Muhammad as the messenger of God. So who's this God we worship? He's the creator of everything that exists, the Almighty, the most compassionate, the most loving. God is one, so Islam is a monotheistic faith. We only worship one God. The word we use for God is Allah. So the word Allah is the same word for God that Christian Arabs use. So if they Christian Arabs, and there are a lot of them, especially in Nashville, Coptic Christians, if they open up their Bible in Arabic, guess what? They'll say Allah. And it's just like Elohim in Spanish, in Hebrew, and Dios in Spanish. If we can get that, it's too, I might fall asleep. So about Prophet Muhammad, so we don't have exclusive naming rights towards a God. No copyright rules and all that. So, and to Allah. So Prophet Muhammad, he was born in around the year 571. He's a descendant of Abraham. So Abraham had 2 boys, Isaac and Ishmael. Through Isaac, you have all these great prophets, Moses, and Jesus comes from that lineage, whereas Muhammad comes through the lineage of Ishmael. That's why Islam, Christianity, and Judaism are commonly known as the Abrahamic faiths. And a little bit about Jesus and Moses. They're highly respected in our faith. And they're mentioned more by name in the Quran than Muhammad is by, in fact. About Jesus, he is considered as a prophet in Islam. We believe in his second coming, that we do believe he'll come back again. We do believe in his miracles, his miraculous birth. Mother Mary is deemed as one of the most pious women of all time. And even the 19th chapter in the Quran is named after Mother Mary, or Maryam. And in this 19th chapter, a little bit about the Quran, there are 114 chapters, over 6,000 verses, and these are considered the divine revelations, whereas the hadith are the teachings of Muhammad, but they're not divine revelations, they're written after his time, transmitted, and the Quran was written during the time of Muhammad. So the Quran's 19th chapter is named Maryam, and in that chapter it documents the miraculous birth of Jesus, and it's a long passage. I'll just sort of recollect some verses. So they're accusing Mary of being unchaste. She comes with this baby and she vowed to fast and not speak. And so they're saying, oh, Mother Mary, what have you done? What a shameful thing, and so forth. And she points to the baby. So baby Jesus in the cradle, this is a miracle we believe in, started speaking, saying, I'm the servant of God. He gave me a book and made me a prophet. He made me blessed wheresoever I may be. And he enjoined on me prayer and charity as long as I live. So peace the day I was born. And he made me good and beautiful towards my mother, and not unbearable towards her. So peace the day I was born, the day I die, and the day I'll be raised up. We have a lot of things in terms of Jesus. His miracles are mentioned in the Quran. About prayer. So prayer is our second pillar of Islam. We're required to pray 5 times a day. Again, building that relationship with God. What our purpose in life is to worship God. So those prayers occur before sun rises, during the noontime, afternoon sunset, and during the night prayer. So except for the sunrise and the sunset prayer, which we have about an hour to catch, and those who came early, we were praying. You may have caught us praying that sunset prayer. And so the other prayers, you have like a time frame to catch it, maybe 2, 3, 4 hours to catch it. And so the first thing we do, we perform ablution. We wash our hands, face, and feet. It's a special time. We're facing God. And then we face in the direction of the northeast. There's this building called the Kaaba, which was built by Abraham and his son. Looks like this. And so that's why these carpets are aligned in this direction. I sometimes wonder, do you think we just have horrible architects carpets? But it's actually designed by purpose in that direction. And then we start out by saying Allahu Akbar, means God is greatest. And we're afraid to say that in the plane because someone will think we're about to blow up the plane. But we're not. That's like the most peaceful time for us. I hate who's done whatever movie one time. And that's our most, this is just saying God is greatest. Just like any other faith that says God is greatest. We're celebrating His greatness. And then we open up with the opening chapter of the Quran. And I'll translate that. It says, in the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, all thanks and praise belong to God, Lord of the worlds, the most compassionate, the most merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. You alone we worship, and you alone we seek help. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those on whom you have bestowed your blessings, not of those whom you are angry with, nor of those who go astray. Amen. So it's a simple prayer, thanking God. If you notice, the word for compassion and mercy is used 4 times. The word for anger is used once. In fact, in the Quran, there's a big theme on compassion. 192 times the words for compassion is used, and the word for anger or its derivatives are used only 17 times. And so then, after we recite the opening chapter of the Quran, we recite any other verses from the Quran, and then we bow down. And if you were a Tim Tebow fan, this is your chance to see his picture since he's retired. That's how we bow down, except we'd be flagged. We can't put a knee down. Then we get back up, and then we prostrate. Those who are Tom Brady's fans, since I think it's being taped, so I won't say anything bad about Tom Brady. He's just an incredible football player, but he ruined the Titans season twice. So he had this pick 6 2 years ago on primetime. Now it's 2.5 years ago. And guess what? This guy named Hussein Abdullah, he picked the ball and ran into the end zone. He prostrates, and we're excited because Tom Brady got intercepted, but more importantly, we got a way to demonstrate prostration for an NFL player. Because Christians have a way to demonstrate bowing. And then you get back up, we prostrate second time, and then that completes one cycle of prayer, like in yoga, one vinyasa. And then we again repeat the opening chapter of the Quran. We then bow down, stand back up, prostrate, sit, prostrate, and then we'll sit down. Each prayer either has 2, 3, or 4 cycles of prayer. And then during the prostration especially, it's good to supplicate as well, glorify and praise and thank God. But supplication, asking for anything, I'm wondering what he was asking for. Maybe he was just thanking God that he picked off Tom Brady, but we'll ask for anything. A good grade, good health, and so forth. And then we'll say peace on both sides, and that completes our prayer. And during that time, we can't hold any other conversations. And it's like we're meeting the Lord, so we have to pay special attention. It's like I was lucky to meet Obama way back 2 or 3 years ago when he came to Casa Zafran. And I was like, man, I'm sometimes late to stuff. I'm not going to be late to this event. And so I came 1 hour early. And so it's a special time. So I know those who are in administrative roles, for Muslims, this is our thing that we can't meet. I mean, just like I wouldn't miss meeting Obama, definitely not going to miss this appointment with God, which we have to do 5 times a day. In the school system, their accommodations, they've been very welcoming. Even I'm a Hillsborough High School graduate from, it's 3 decades ago. But that I used to have accommodations even when I was at Hillsborough. They're very welcoming. You have to explain it and mention it. And so the biggest prayer we have, we pray 5 times. We try to pray in congregation in the mosque, wherever we are. But our big day of congregational prayer occurs, guess what? Not Sundays. Christians took them away. Sunday, Jews reserve Saturdays, so those are off limit. So we had only 1 day to choose out of 5. Guess what day we got? Friday. That's why they say TGIF. And so we celebrate Fridays. And our second prayer is the noon prayer, which we pray is replaced by the big congregational prayer. And so it starts off with a sermon and ends with a prayer. We have 2 services in this mosque, 12 and 1. And so this is comparing prayer and yoga, whoever does yoga, namaste, although that might be a child's post. I don't know what Balasana means. And so charity is the 3rd pillar of Islam. We're required to give 2.5% of our savings, in a nutshell, to the poor. And the word we use for charity is called zakat. Zakat means to purify or to grow. And so, in essence, if you give in charity, it'll purify your wealth and cause it to grow. Just like in Christianity, that same concept. Of course, Christians set the bar high with 10%. We only have 2.5%. And then sadaqah is charity. So we're supposed to be involved with charitable acts. They don't only come in the form of that monetary giving. The monetary giving is this mandatory 2.5%. But if you read sadaqah, charity, Prophet Muhammad described it. He says, each person's every joint must do a charity every day the sun comes up. To act justly between 2 people is a charity. To help a man with his mount, lifting him onto it or hoisting up his belongings onto it is a charity. A good word is a charity. Every step you take to perform prayers is a charity. And removing a harmful thing from the road is a charity. So we have several hundred joints. So every day the sun rises, we got to get working to basically, in a nutshell, serving our community, serving fellow human beings. If you read this, saying a good word, I mean, is there any limit to all the good words we can say to lift other people's spirit? Just like we can really damage people's reputation, we can, their psyche, you have that social and emotional learning, which they talk about in education. We can damage that by bad words, but just on the opposite spectrum, it's a charity if you utilize your tongue to say words of encouragement and good words. And I love this. It's helping a man with his mount, lifting him onto it or hoisting up his belongings onto it is a charity. So a raise of hands, anyone ride horses still? So, okay, we can help. Everyone wants to get this charity. Go see our guest here. But one thing to note about Islam, it's something we call fiqh, which means Islamic jurisprudence. You know, one application 1400 years ago may have a different application today. In one society, maybe it would apply differently in another society. But the betterment and the good of the society is always that you're trying to get that objective. So here, you can't do that really if you're just confined to helping people, horsemen. So what you do is like apply, you have maybe an elderly neighbor and they're having a hard time pushing up their recycling bin once a month or their garbage bin, and you go and help and basically alleviate their problems and make things easier for others. That's what that's about. So you can apply that in so many ways every day. There's no limit to that. There's no shortage of applying that. And so basically that's that. And here's some pictures. We're involved with community service, civic engagement in our community. I'll mention a few a little later. Marcus Mariota, now my favorite quarterback. So this was, I think, Pencil may have been partners that day. His foundation and the mayor's office had this drive for filling up these book bags for inner city kids. And luckily a friend of mine is Lionel Matthews, and he posted, if you want to celebrate my birthday, come to help us stuff these bags. And there was no mention of Marcus Mariota, but I went there and during my lunch break from when I work at NES, and then all of a sudden he said at 2 o'clock he's coming back. So I was like, okay, I got a project meeting at work. I supervisor in one of our engineering departments. Luckily, being a supervisor, I can change my time. So hey, we're moving our meeting to 1. I'm going back to see Marcus Mariota. And this is one of our interns at the time, Ahmed Swara. And he said this was my best day at work at the mosque. I get to meet Marcus Mariota. So I called him up to help him get a picture. And sorry, please pray. Okay. So fasting is our 4th pillar. So we have a month called Ramadan. That's the name of the 9th lunar month. And there are 12 lunar months. And the lunar calendar year falls short of the Gregorian calendar year by 10 to 12 days. And because each lunar month will have either 29 or 30 days. And that's why every year Ramadan keeps on shifting by 10 to 12 days. A year ago it started on June 6th, the year before June 18th, next year around May 25th roughly. And I'm looking forward to when it's in December, so those days are shorter and the fasting shorter and less time to be hungry and thirsty. So that's how we go through every season throughout a course of 30 years or so. But from dawn to sunset, we have to abstain from food, drink, and intimate marital relations. So now being in early June, late May, we wake up around 4 o'clock in the morning, take a pre-dawn meal, and that's it until 8 o'clock. And then 8 o'clock, we can pig out, but we can't eat pigs. And so that's how our fasting ends. And then we go on, again, we get to eat, and then I know y'all are taking the class now. If you ever want to just come for Ramadan for the dinner, we do a class and dinner program, about 6 to 8 of them. But the dinner part, y'all are all welcome if you want to bring a friend just for the dinner, or if you want a friend to come for the class. The dinner, we have catered food like this every night. And so exemptions, sick, nursing, kids until they reach the age of puberty, women during the monthly cycles, elderly. If you're traveling, so this one, Tom, we'll let you know since he's with the airport authority, awesome guy, and the culture they have with our with the airport authority. So if you're traveling, you don't have to fast, but you do have to make it up later. And that's why I'm like praying, I'm wondering what to do if Vanderbilt baseball makes it to the World Series this year. It's going to fall during the end of Ramadan. So I'm left with this serious issue. Do I take that the advantage of not having to fast while travel and travel to Omaha? Because the last time they were there 2 years ago, I went for game 1. Ramadan began after Jaron Kendall hit. Sorry, I'm going to have a lot of sports analogies. So right after Jaron Kendall hit the walk-off home run, I had to rush back because 2 days later Ramadan began. And I was like, oh yeah, how am I going to do this? Vanderbilt's just too good. They're making my life hard. So purpose of fasting is to develop social consciousness, to come closer to God. It elevates one level of spirituality. So that's what fasting does. And there's a few things there. And so the 5th pillar of Islam is the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, which is required to take place. We have to perform it once in our lifetime if we have the means and ability to do so. And so most of the rituals are based on Abraham and the traditions of Abraham. And so we travel to Mecca, and it takes about 5 to 6 days to perform the rituals. And this occurs during the 12th lunar month. So the name of the 9th lunar month is Ramadan. The name of the 12th lunar month is called Hajj. And it starts from the 8th day, lasts about 5 or 6 days. You see this guy here? He's not a monk, but he's a pilgrim. Men and women both perform it, but men have to wear this 2-piece garment. And if you think of a monk as being a peaceful person, same thing as a Muslim who's performing this obligation. We're at our most peaceful state. You can't harm anything. Not to say you can harm things outside of Ramadan. Pilgrimage. But even getting into arguments can nullify or at least reduce the rewards of that pilgrimage to Mecca. So you have to be, and I attended it twice. Once when in 1993, I was a teaching assistant at Georgia Tech, earned some money, but also, it's after I graduated from Vanderbilt, but then also I co-op, so I earned enough money to make that pilgrimage to Mecca. And while we're talking about it, let me just transition. Sorry about this. I'll share this story before we go to the Eid holiday. So one of the stories I like to share is that while performing the pilgrimage, I met a Russian. 1993, for those who are old enough, I guess majority, unless you're Kerry Conley's friend, which is half of you. So, no, just, okay. But so, I met a Russian, and this is like, the Russians right after Cold War, they're evil. I mean, you watch Rocky IV, they're really evil. And so you were scared of Russians, and all of a sudden a Russian Muslim standing behind me, and we got into a conversation. I found out, I forgot, it's so long ago that I forgot which language we're speaking, but he was so nice. So that changed my perception of Russians. So the whole idea is, never draw conclusions about people. Don't generalize them, don't stereotype. The whole 9 yards, you all know that. So based on political affiliations and so forth. So there's a verse in the Quran, and I'll recite it in Arabic so you know how the Quran sounds. It's like chanting, it's melodious. I guess since we're in Music City, I better make sure it sounds very melodious. So it says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا, which means, O mankind, we created you from a single male and female and made you into nations and tribes so that you may get to know one another. So what we're doing tonight is actually fulfilling that purpose, getting to know one another. It's the complete opposite of racism, where with racism, those who have that tendency are like, hey, if you're not like me, you don't look like me, your skin color is different, you're from another, you have a different ethnicity, you're different gender, whatever, different neighborhood, then I don't like you, you have to conform to my ways or the highway. Here, this is actually an educational opportunity. We're all going to be different, and this is the opportunity to educate ourselves about someone who's different. And Muhammad said, all mankind is from Adam, and even Arab has no superiority over non-Arab, nor non-Arab over Arab, nor white over black, nor black over white. So I will cut here, since we've been speaking for half an hour, give you a little break with an ice breaker. It's called, which one's a Muslim?
Let's see, the one on the right.
Ironically, one of these guys was in my dream. This is weird. Really, 3 days ago. It's Keith Ellison. He's a congressman from Minnesota. We're in this meeting, and I was like, he's right there. This is cool. I got to speak to him, but I was engaged with the discussion. I was like, oh man, I'm going to miss him. I'm right next to him. But anyhow, that was a weird dream. So which of these two women is a Muslim? Actually, she is. She's Jewish. She developed, I think, a character with Marvel Comics a while back. Oh, okay. Which of these... Sorry. Okay, which of these two Oz's is a Muslim?
Dr. Oz.
Dr. Oz. But I like his work better. I like the Crazy Train. In fact, I think they played it at the Vanderbilt baseball game, a little clip of it. I was like, they used to play it a lot at the Titans game, get me fired up when they started all this weird music. And so, which of these two football players is a Muslim?
McGasker.
Yep, T-Mac. A great solid guy, trying out for the pros right now. Which of these two comedians is a Muslim?
Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle. I don't know if y'all saw that Saturday Night Live right after the election. Which of these two Santas would not be caught in your chimney? Yeah, it's this guy. Yusuf Estes is his name. Tim Allen probably wouldn't either, because he was just acting. So we'll skip through. I need to make sure I finish the presentation. Which of these two basketball stars is a Muslim? Yeah, although he looks like many Muslims I've seen, but and which of these two ladies is a Muslim? Or two women? Actually, both. One is with the White House, and she was former Miss America in 2010 from Michigan. Which of these two presidents is a Muslim? That was the day I met Obama, so. It's almost proof, but right after, by the way, I know I don't want to be political, but I do miss this guy. But he was so, whether one likes his politics or not, he was the coolest, chillest guy. I mean, everyone in there, we were like 40 people in Casas up front, and I was next to someone who was undocumented, and she was just here chilling and asking questions. That's how he made at least he made us two feel. And so I thought he was really cool. But right after he left, we crashed the stage, took our photo ops, and they said, you're not supposed to do this. So luckily I snuck one picture, and I'll cherish that forever. I don't remember what this was. Why do I have that? Oh, yeah. Which one's a Muslim? This is right before the Super Bowl. Mohammed Sanu. One of our members knows him pretty close. So sorry. That's just like, you never know who's a Muslim, who's not, who looks like. So it's very hard to stereotype us. Two holidays that we celebrate. And we call them Eid. Eid means festivity. So we have Eid al-Fitr, which marks the end of Ramadan, and Eid al-Adha, which occurs during the 10th day of that pilgrimage season. And that commemorates the famous sacrifice of Abraham and his son. And so during this festivity, we have a prayer, And in Nashville, it occurs in 3 major places because we have about 35,000 Muslims in Nashville. The Islamic Center of Nashville is engaged mostly with the one that we typically hold at TSU, which draws in about 4,000. Mayor Berry was there to do a welcoming. Mayor Dean when we did it at the Music City Center. And then, do you know how we greet each other? Sorry. Can you say Eid?
Eid.
Can you say what a cow does? Well, you forgot how those little things, when you're a kid, you turn those things and a cow says, moo. That's what you do. So Eid, moo. And who's that? Sorry, this is getting slow. Barak. Eid Mubarak, which means blessed Eid. I'll go over these real quick. Little statistics, 1.6 billion Muslims around the world. Only 18% of Muslims are from the Middle East. And there are about 100 million Muslims in Indonesia, Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. My heritage is from Bangladesh. Muslims in Nashville, America, we'll go over this, the history. So a lot of times people associate Muslims as being foreign or immigrants, which we're proud of our immigrant ancestry, but that's not our whole, that's not what we're all painted with. We have Muslims who have been here since the 1300s and maybe even earlier. From Mali, West Africa, Muslim explorers came here. Slavery, up to 30% who came as slaves were Muslims. And then Muslim immigration, Nation of Islam, and refugees. Nation of Islam, we rejected how it started. We don't know what it does now. But majority of those who came to Nation of Islam, including Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, they came into mainstream Islam after the founder passed away, and some before the founder passed away. This is a little bit about our history. So you're sitting in the mosque that was founded in terms of monetarily wise by Cat Stevens, or better known as Yusuf Islam. So actually, in 1979, these are some of the founders. My father, uncles, and the Egyptian lady here. Her name is Zainab El Berry, but she's not Megan Berry. Zainab El Berry. So they founded it in 1979. They were trying to raise money, and then they found this place here on 12 South, which used to be a house. And then he found out about it, and he donated, and he came here a second time. Then he came following that donation in July of 1979. Met with my dad. They chilled out, just casually drove around the neighborhood, and then he gave another check, and with that they purchased this house and the adjacent property, and so we're tied into Music City, of course.
Why did you have Muhammad Yunus there?
He used to be in Nashville too. When my family moved here in 1970, and I was just a baby, so back then he's from Bangladesh too, so he was friends of the family. So he's also not with the mosque, because the mosque was founded in 79, but history of Nashville. He was part of Nashville's history.
Yeah, he did a PhD in economics
Yeah,
at Vanderbilt.
at Vanderbilt. That's when my father knew him, and then he taught at TSU.
Right, he sure did.
And then this was a great testimony from Yusuf Islam, or Cat Stevens. He came here after 37 years to perform at the Ryman, gave us a surprise visit. And afterwards in the Tennessee, he said, I visited the center yesterday and found a great openness to share a message of unity, love and peace, which I had discovered. I'm proud that the Center in Nashville has become a beacon for understanding and sharing spiritual values. It was obviously money well spent, so we were glad he was happy. And then the mosque was redeveloped in 1989, so this posh neighborhood now, actually we were one of the first to go back and invest in it before it became trendy. We're grateful to be in this neighborhood, great people, Carrie, she brings half the people here know Carrie, so we're just really humbled and grateful to be in this neighborhood. And so there was an article, Muslims now first real mosque, because now it looked like a mosque, it wasn't just a house mosque. These are just some other history. We have another piece of property on Charlotte Pike, 11-acre land that was founded in 1995. Now we run a school, Nashville International Academy, and it's accredited by the state, goes from pre-K to 8th grade. We have a large Kurdish population, over 15,000. There's a mosque on Nolensville Road, a couple of them, one near 4th Avenue. Somalians moved here as well, and we have a large population of Somalians, 7,000 roughly. And these are just pictures of other mosques. We're building a mosque right now on Charlotte Pike as we speak. And the plan here is to redevelop this mosque and build it 2 stories. We're maybe 1 story longer or 2 stories. We're not going to increase the worship space. In fact, it might be decreased a little. But events like this, you don't have to worry about taking off your shoes, or we'll have a place for people to come. And also, we're really targeting education and service. We want to be a service to the community and do more. And so these are just other mosques. 63,000 Muslims in Tennessee, 7 to 10 million in America. About 1/4 are African American, 1/4 Arabs, 1/4 South Asian, and 1/4 the rest. And then we have people from all walks of life: doctors, lawyers, engineers, professors, teachers, cab drivers, IT, you name it. We have it. And these are just pictures of Muslims in Nashville, other mosques. And partnerships we have, including South Nashville Fellowship, Community Development Forum, Turk, You Have the Power, YWCA, Belmont's Room in the Inn, 12 South Neighborhood Association, Family of Abraham, and many other more. And these are just some quick pictures I'll show since we want to get to the misconceptions. Those who attended the third annual Black History Month, we featured the legacy of Muhammad Ali. How many came to that? Wow, that's a good number. We had about 300 that day, and it was awesome. So every February we have an event. I don't want to advertise it too much, but we had Gerald Casey. I was really excited about that. And so we gave an award out, Breaking Down the Barriers. We gave it to Brenda Wynn. These are pictures. And let's go on, just skip through these. Second annual Diversity Brunch, April 1st. If you want food from all over the world, we had 1,000 visitors last year. April 1st, 11 to 2 o'clock. Remember that time, especially if you're hungry. And to learn about other places and cultures, we'll have at least 40 countries represented. There's no presentation like this, it's just chill, and there's an award, and Mayor Berry came to the last 2. She should be here again. And then we started an appreciation brunch thanks to this nice, warm, caught in the act of kindness, we called it, where she did this sidewalk chalk drawing. We see you, we want you here, in the whole 9 yards, and we receive flowers. So again, we have great people we're surrounded by, and we wanted to show appreciation. And so this is going to be an annual event, so there'll be hopefully December, an appreciation brunch. We had a panel discussion as well, and food. And then I'm going to go, every Ramadan we have the dinner and class. We have about 6 to 8 of those. And any friends you know that wanted to learn more couldn't make it, they're welcome. Just we'll post it on Facebook. And this is pictures from the past. Leadership groups, special groups, interfaith, diversity training. A lot of them go through here now. Teachers workshop. We have Teach for America workshop, and teachers in general. That's coming up on March 13th. But we do programs for most of the teaching universities. Teach for America did their Justice Journey dinner for their new teaching corps last summer, which was it was very touching to me because of all the places in Nashville, for them to feel comfortable and ask, can we use your space, and we don't charge. We just welcomed them. It was their space. They set up tables. It meant a lot. And also they had 3 days to find a place. So universities. So Samantha, there's Jared Kendall there, and Colleen Snyder. There's Carson Fulmer and Tyra Campbell. Their freshman seminar used to come here for 3 years. I miss those days. We've had special guests, schools. There's Harpatali, Mayor Berry, Mayor Dean, Congressman Cooper, and Pokemon, or Polkadot, or whatever that is. We do a youth exchange visit with the Jewish community. We've been doing that for 9 years. And a peace summit with Muslim, Christian, and Jewish youth every April in Swanee for a day. Places of worship tour for high school students. That'll be on March 16th, Thursday, which I help coordinate every year, except this year, the pro day for Torn McGaster same day. So I'll be jumping back and forth, but that's on social justice. They're going to visit a church, a synagogue, a mosque, and a Hindu temple, and neighborhood association initiatives, marathon. We help out, 30,000, and let me try to get through all these pictures. Room in, walk off crime, You Have the Power. Sorry, I don't know how to have any pictures. Duas. vigils and marches, women's march. Okay, now let's get to the misconceptions. So we're faced with a lot of things that are happening. Maybe social media. This guy said, "How to wink at a Muslim." A commissioner posted, and it's aiming a gun, and it's very alarming for us. It's very scary, in fact, especially if you have kids and like thinking that this is how people are going to perceive Muslims, that you can just shoot at them. And where's all this hatred coming from? It's led to hate crimes. A mosque in Columbia, Tennessee, being burned to the ground. Muslims go home. Graffiti on Al-Faruq Mosque in 2010. And things like this happen from time to time. I know we have all the great stuff that happens, but we're also vigilant of the scary stuff that's out there. And so, and I'll go to the first misconception, which is jihad. So jihad does not mean holy war. Jihad literally means to strive, to struggle, to exert. So the word for holy war, the word for war is harb. And harb is a word that Muhammad even discouraged his followers to name themselves after. It's not to be celebrated. Jihad, to strive, is to strive to improve yourself, that struggle to raise your children, that struggle to get an education. I know I did jihad at Vanderbilt. It was a jihad to get an A at Vanderbilt. Those were in high school. Homeland Security never took me for that. So firefighter, police officer, police officers. I know there's some scary stuff happening, no doubt. But the majority of them who are actually doing the job to protect us, they're sacrificing their lives. If you ride with a cop, I did that 8 years ago, try that. You'll see how scary it is. If you're scared like me, that's why I go to medicine. But it is a scary job, but they're risking their lives every day. Courage of a soldier. So it does have application to the battlefield. So let's go over war and peace. So first 13 years of prophethood, Muslims avoided war. And they were persecuted, tortured, they were boycotted for 3 years, killed. Finally, they just, you could say, became refugees. They left their homeland of Mecca, moved to Medina, left all their homes and belongings, and were welcomed with open arms. But shortly thereafter, war was waged against them. And not once during those 13 years did they resort to suicide bombing and say, hey, we give up, we're just going to kill people. So finally, God revealed, to those against whom war is made, permission is given to fight because they are wrong. Did not God check one set of people by means of another? There surely would have been pulled down monasteries, churches, synagogues, and mosques in which the name of God is commemorated in abundant measure. So look how he lumps the monasteries, the churches, synagogues, and mosques. He doesn't just mention that mosques would be taken down. These are considered as holy sites. God says if they incline towards peace, then you incline towards peace and place your trust in God. So if there's any opportunity during war was waged on you, you now have to fight back. You can't just say, I'm going to be peaceful and just get run over. This is the time you have to fight back. But if there's opportunity towards peace, and it is in peace, then you have to go towards it. This is I used to tell what Muhammad said during war, but I like this clip better. It said, if ISIS, Taliban, or Al-Qaeda ever read the Quran, and for us, ISIS, these are like the KKK of Christianity. We don't associate KKK with Christianity, just like we wouldn't associate ISIS with Islam. Muhammad said during wartime, don't cut a tree, don't kill a child, don't kill old people, don't destroy a temple or a church, don't destroy a building, don't kill those who surrender, don't kill those who ran away, don't enforce Islam, be good to the prisoners and feed them, don't kill an animal except for eating, don't disfigure the dead, don't kill a monk or priest, don't kill a woman or a sick person. So it's very important to know that it's soldier against soldier. You don't just go indiscriminately just killing people and burning down, doing all this pillage. And these are just some statistics. Number of people killed by jihadist terrorists annually in this 10-year period, 9, which we don't want it to be 0, but armed toddlers, 21. I know we have some toddlers here. Lawnmower, 69. Falling out of bed, 737. Thank God I stopped falling out of bed. Being shot by another American. They're all problems, but sometimes some things get so focused and highlighted to make us look like, stereotype Muslims as just, all criminals. We've got 1.6 billion Muslims around the world. Overwhelming majority are peaceful people. And so terrorism is condemned. We've had a lot of issues. We issued out statements. So people sometimes say, why don't Muslims condemn? Like anytime there's a terrorist act, we're responsible, we have to speak out. We do condemn it. But our faith condemns it by its teachings. And And so extremism is condemned in every form and fashion. And it's not just extremism in killing, any forms of extremism. It always pushes Muslims to take the moderate path. There's teachings in the Quran and the teachings of Muhammad, even the way we eat and way we dress and so forth. But God says that if anyone killed a person, it would be as if he killed all of humankind. So killing one innocent life is like wiping out the planet. And so Muhammad said, part of a branch of one's faith is to remove something injurious from a path where people could get hurt. So in Islam, it's not enough to say, I'm a good Muslim, I don't harm people, but it takes it one step further. You have to make sure that others around you are safe. If someone is in harm's way, it's our obligation, if we are a believer, if we have faith, that we're going to make sure that other person is, that harmful object is removed away from that person's path. So if you're driving down I-65, you see a flat tire, you swerve and avoid the accident, immediately call 615-862-8600 and say, hey, there's this tire. They're probably tired of me calling that number to report flat tires or objects, but we have to do that because we have to think, what about the next person behind me might get in the accident? Domestic violence. I serve on the YWCA board, and so one area that I'm heavily involved is men, engaging men in domestic violence. Very passionate about it because when you know these statistics that every day 3 women are losing their lives to domestic violence, every 15 seconds a woman is being abused, 1 in 4 are subjected to severe physical abuse by their partner. I mean, the list goes on. So as a Muslim, what do? I love what the YWCA does. You have to make sure that women are safe. You know, the objective, if you heard Mayor Barry said, we want to make, and Mayor Dean before said, we want to make Nashville the safest city for women. But you have to work towards it. And so you have to be concerned. As a person of faith, we have to work to making sure we reduce these numbers, and that's one of the ways for men to be involved and educate. And I know Samantha, David Williams, Vice Chancellor David Williams' daughter, he's a Vice Chancellor David Williams. You have to hear him speak. One of the best speakers and best guys. He's a champion of that, and he's got the Vanderbilt program now bought into it and so forth. And so God said, if anyone saved a life, it would be as if he saved the life of all humankind. God said, let there be no compulsion in religion, for truth stands clear from error. So we can't force someone to convert. Any idea that we're going to force people to convert to Islam? Now people can choose their way of life, their religion. They're welcome to do so, but we can't force anyone. That's against Islam. Muhammad said to the monks of St. Catherine in Mount Sinai, verily I defend them by myself, the servants, the helpers, and my followers, because Christians are my citizens. If a female Christian is married to a Muslim, this is not to take place without her own wish. She is not to be prevented from going to her church to pray. Their churches are to be respected. And there are other teachings we'll skip. And that's why Spain was ruled by Muslims, at least southern Spain, for almost 800 years, Andalusia, Granada, so forth. It was known as the golden age of interfaith harmony. Muslims, Christians, Jews got along. 800 years, that's a long time, but that's our history. People measure us by what's recently happening in some countries. That's an unfair knock on the religion Islam. India, Hindu temples were built. Jerusalem, the second leader after Muhammad passed away, he refused to pray at the Church of Holy Sepulchre because he was afraid if he did so, others would use that as an excuse to take over the churches and convert them to mosques. And then women in Islam, men and women are equal before God, and there's not this inequity like if a woman prays 5 times a day and a man prays 5, the woman will make 80% of what the man makes, like 80 cents to the dollar. We don't have that. Men and there's a verse in Surah Nahl, it says for every man and woman, they will have their reward, and God will not diminish any of it. And the acquisition of knowledge is compulsory on every Muslim man and woman. So education is not confined to the hands of men. It's obligatory for women too to gain an education. Right to vote and to be politically active. Of course, the 3 largest Muslim countries have elected their heads of state as females. In Pakistan, in the late 80s, I believe. Bangladesh has been going through 2 prime ministers from 2 parties. It keeps on flip-flopping between 2 female leaders. And Indonesia elected a president, the largest Muslim country, over 200 million Muslims or people, as a female in 2001. right to own her own wealth and earn her own money, right to inherit money and property, right to receive a dowry upon marriage and maintain her maiden name. There are no forced marriages in Islam. Those honored in Islam, a man asked the Prophet Muhammad, who is most deserving of all mankind of kind treatment and good companionship for me? He replied, your mother. He was asked this 3 times. Each time he replied, your mother, then your father. And so he also said, anyone who has 3 daughters, clothes and provides for them and shows mercy to them will enter the garden, will definitely enter the garden. So if you look at a historical perspective of this, when Muhammad was born around the 571, daughters were being buried alive. And that was the culture. This wasn't Islam, before Islam. And so turn the clock forward 62 years plus later, all of a sudden, it's an incentive to have daughters. That's your ticket to paradise. And that's why I love, I've been involved with men, engaging men through the YWCA to end domestic violence for the last 3 years and given sermons, I think 12 or so across the state and city. Because we have all these teachings that are very consistent with the man message. It's about changing the culture of that, how men perceive women. That's why when I speak to the kids, I know Carrie knows that in high school, this is through NES, I get to speak to most of our freshmen. I think this year I spoke to over 4,000. I always bring under professional skills respect, and I cover racism and respect towards women, female classmates, and give them the picture of Ray Rice, saying that if you want to end up like this, you're going to be without a job, and then give them the whole spill on the statistics, but sharing with them that it's that culture that starts now. How do you treat your female classmates? I spoke at one school. It touched me like crazy when the whole 230 freshmen all started clapping. I never received that because especially girls are like, we need men to speak out against it. There's no such thing as this locker room talk. It's got to be consistent and respectful. So the best of you are those who are best to their wives. And there's a verse in the Quran that says when the birth of a female child is, they get the news, their faces become like dark and gloomy, and they are left with the choice of either burying their daughter or living with shame. Then God says evil is their choice. So Islam comes to change that negative culture, that bad culture. Women will we talk about hijab and modesty. So the hijab sticks out because people see that. So this woman to the right is a Muslim. The rest aren't. She's Jewish, nun, Mother Mary, Mother Teresa. So really the hijab is an act of faith showing obedience towards God to be respected and recognized as a woman of faith. Men will tend to keep the beard and so forth. We'll end off with what is Sharia. Sharia, in a nutshell, are the guidelines by which a Muslim lives his or her life according to the teachings of the Quran and Prophet Muhammad. So it covers all aspects of worship, things we discussed today, aspects of life. It could be business transactions. We have verses that really talk about it. Commerce, dietary restrictions, marriage, similar to the Jewish religious code, the halakha, and the Catholic canon laws. And so if you want a litmus test, you see something crazy going on, you see someone's head was beheaded in this country that during war, and you're wondering, man, why are these Muslims? Is this what Islam teaches? Is that what's driving them? Then ask these 5 questions. Islamic law ensures justice for all and protection of religion, life, property, honor, and intellect. If any of these are violated, Islam is being violated. So religion, if someone is trying to tear down a church, desecrate it, well, by the way, those same people are tearing down famous mosque sites as well. They're just brutal. They have no faith in them. And so, or no practice or understanding of the faith. And life, anything that violates, you're going to kill a human being, you know, of course there's soldier to soldier doing warfare, but even those rules are very strict. Property, there's a strict justice system in Islam. God said, "O believers, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses for God, even if it be against yourself, your parents, or your relatives, be they rich or poor. God is the best protector of both." And so there's a strong justice system. You have to first hold yourself accountable. Point your finger to yourself if you have to, instead of finding scapegoats. Honor and intellect. Honor, I love this part, because we protect everyone's honor. That's why you can't have racist remarks. You can't demean people. With domestic violence, we talk not just about physical abuse, but emotional abuse. That's just as bad. You know, holding people hostage. I heard our Imam Sheikh Osama really going on that last week, a beautiful sermon he gave. And it's very reassuring when your imams, your clergy are on the same page in this fight against domestic violence, about emotional abuse. And that's why we have a verse in the Quran that says, "O mankind, let not some men make fun of other men, laugh at other men. It may be that the latter better than the former. Let not some women laugh at other. It may be that the latter better than the former. Do not defame one another and do not insult each other by calling them offensive nicknames." I like to call that the anti-bullying verse, because serving on the "You Have the Power," we deal with human traffic board, we deal with human trafficking and bullying. And these are just other verses. And finally, intellect. So anything that will violate intellect. That's why, we're supposed to utilize our mind. This is the biggest thing we have, a huge treasure. So anything that's going to impair it, drugs. That's why we don't drink alcohol. Alcohol impairs that intellect. And you can make some bad decisions. You heard about some drug rapes that took place. They try to drug the female and then they'll rape them. It's anything that'll change, impair that intellect. So we're supposed to exercise this mind, think, reflect, question. It's mentioned throughout the Quran, these words of understanding. And then finally, the Sharia. Do we want to replace the Constitution with Sharia law? That's a bunch of baloney, because Sharia compels Muslims to obey the laws of the land and is consistent with the values we find in the Constitution. So we don't have a beef with the Constitution. Now, I personally have a lot of beefs with some of the legislation that our state legislature is trying to make. They have some good ones, they have some crazy ones, but so does every other Tennessean, Nashvilleian as well. So finally, no pork products, no alcohol, no drugs, no cheating, no lying. I don't know any religion that allows you to cheat or lie. In fact, Muhammad said people, I'll summarize it, might have different characteristic shortcomings, except for two: lying, falsehood, and treachery. You're not going to find that in a believer. And the last, to end it off, are Islamic values consistent with American values? We share neighborly love, family values, helping those in need. God says, serve God and associate none with Him. Show kindness to your parents and kinsfolk, and to the orphans, to the needy, to your near and distant neighbors. So we thank you very much. And we